Welcome to this explainer. We hear it literally all the time, right? AI is learning. But when you actually pop the hood and look at the mechanics of how, it is just absolutely fascinating. Today, we're going to explore how tuning a highly complex mathematical engine transforms complete random noise into pinpoint accuracy.
Ingredients of AI learning. So what actually makes an AI tick?
Okay, think of this like building an actual physical engine. You need fuel, you need sensors, and you need moving parts. Well, an AI model requires 3 non-negotiable ingredients to learn absolutely anything. First up, the fuel, data. This is your input and your expected output. Imagine feeding in raw images of handwritten digits along with the correct labels 0 through 9. Next, you need a loss function. This is basically your sensor. It measures how wrong the model is at any exact moment, usually using math like cross-entropy. And third, the moving parts, an optimization algorithm. This tells the system exactly how to change the model's parameters to reduce that wrongness, almost always using gradient descent via backprop. Honestly, without all 3 of these, no training is going to happen, period.
Think of training as this epic conceptual journey. Before we start, our model is literally just a random function. All of its internal weights and parameters, completely random. If it's guessing between 10 different numbers, it's going to be right about 10% of the time, just pure dumb luck. But by continuously applying our learning algorithm with those 3 ingredients we just talked about, we iteratively transform that random guesswork into an incredibly accurate function. We're talking well over 98% accuracy. It feels like magic, but actually, it's just pure, relentless engineering.
Moving on to Section 2, the 4-step training loop. This is the literal heartbeat of the AI.
This loop is the exact chronological sequence that gets implemented hundreds of thousands of times over. It's a continuous, repeating cycle. Step 1, we do a forward pass to get our predictions. Step 2, immediately compute the loss to measure reality against our error. Step 3, run a backward pass to trace that error all the way back to its source. And finally, Step 4, update the parameters to nudge those internal weights, over and over and over again. This cycle is what turns raw data into actual intelligence.
All right, Section 3, Engine, Backprop, and Gradients. It's time to peek under the hood at the math making all this possible. Right after our forward pass, our loss function has to ask a totally critical question. Just how far off was that prediction? Well, here is a super fascinating memory engineering quirk. To actually answer this, the system has to store the entire computation graph in the GPU memory during that forward pass. That's exactly why training an AI eats up vastly more memory than just asking it a question later on during inference. It literally has to remember exactly how it arrived at its wrong answer.
And that brings us to backpropagation. Guys, this was the revolutionary breakthrough from Rumelhart and his colleagues way back in 1986. Before this, we literally had no idea how to efficiently train deep, multi-layer networks. It was a huge roadblock. So backpropagation works by taking that final error and propagating it backward, layer by layer, using the chain rule from calculus. It essentially allows the network to pause and ask, hey, how much did each individual weight in this massive web actually contribute to my mistake? It calculates the gradients for millions of parameters in a single, remarkably elegant sweep.
So once we finally have those gradients, we rely on gradient descent. You've probably heard the classic analogy, right? It's like a blindfolded hiker trying to feel their way down to the lowest valley. That valley represents 0 error. Since they can't see, they are just relentlessly feeling the slope of the ground beneath their feet. That's the gradient, to take that next cautious step downhill. You just repeat that again and again until you reach the lowest possible point of error.
Take a look at the fundamental update rule here. I know, it looks like complex math at first glance, but it's beautifully simple. Your new parameter is just your old parameter minus the learning rate multiplied by the gradient. Now, you might be wondering, why minus? Well, if a positive gradient means the error is going up, we want to subtract it. That ensures we are always moving against the error, relentlessly nudging our model downward toward accuracy.
Section 4, Mastering the Learning Rate. Let's look at what is arguably the most important dial on our engine's dashboard.
Building on that equation we just saw, the learning rate controls the actual size of those downhill steps we are taking. If your learning rate is too high, the model jumps wildly. It'll completely overshoot the valley, and the whole training diverges into pure mathematical nonsense. But if it's too low, progress is just agonizingly slow, and you might actually get stuck in a shallow ditch instead of finding the deep valley. When it's just right, the loss decreases steadily.
Luckily for us, modern engineers usually rely on tools like the Atom Optimizer, which typically starts at a learning rate of roughly 1 × 10⁻³ that effectively automates this super delicate balancing act.
Section 5. Epochs, batches, and workflows. Now, how do we actually package the data to feed into this finely tuned engine?
When we measure time in AI training, we think in epochs. An epoch is simply one complete pass through the entire training dataset. To put that into perspective, if you have a massive dataset of, say, 1 million images, pushing the engine through 10 to 200 exhaustive passes is often what it takes to actually converge on a good solution.
But here's the catch. We don't feed all 1 million images into the engine at the exact same time. Obviously, that would completely fry our GPU memory. Instead, we use what's called a batch. A batch is just a smaller, manageable subset of data, usually somewhere between 32 and 512 samples. The parameters in our network update after every single batch. That means we are slicing up a massive epoch into hundreds or even thousands of smaller, rapid engine cycles.
So the crucial decision here is how you choose to group this data. If you use the entire set all at once, that's batch gradient descent, it's highly accurate, but painfully slow and super memory heavy. If you go the other extreme and process just one sample at a time, stochastic gradient descent. It's fast, but it's incredibly noisy. And that's exactly why mini batch gradient descent, using those 32 to 512 samples, is the undisputed industry standard. It just strikes the perfect balance between speed, accuracy, and keeping those incredibly expensive GPUs fully utilized.
Let's pull this all together into the practical workflow that genuinely makes up about 95% of all real-world AI engineering projects. First, you prepare and normalize your data. Then you define the model's architecture. Next, you plug in your loss function and that Atom Optimizer we talked about. From there, maybe set your batch size to 32, try 20 epochs just to start, and fire it up. You run the engine, monitor your metrics, and adjust if the model is underperforming. It's a highly structured, almost scientific process of translating pure theory into a working, intelligent product right at your desk.